Hey, sports fans, PB&Z Sports Chaos, Father's Day weekend. It's also U.S. Open weekend here in Boston, Mass, playing in Brookline at the Country Club. By the way, I just saw it flash up. Phil Mickelson, out. He misses the cut. Plus 11.
That's all right.
A little live hangover, maybe? Who knows?
He can go run. He can go join his own golf tournament next time.
Yes, he can. For $125 million, I'll join it myself if I could play. All right, hey. Last night, NBA championship was crowned. Unfortunately, the Boston Celtics were not the winner. They did not win at home to push it to a Game 7 on Father's Day. A little disappointed about that. It would have been a nice day to crown off with a little Celtics championship. But I think at the end of the day, the Warriors were the better team. The Celtics regressed to the old Celtics of the beginning of the year, or end of the year, I should say, last year, going into the new year, when they played too much iso ball, too much Jason Tatum not doing his job, too much Jaylen Brown not doing his job, too much Marcus Smart whining and crying and flopping all over the floor, not getting it done. And Ime Udoka was quite frankly outcoached by Steve Kerr, in my opinion. He made all the right moves the whole playoffs long. I think the better team won. What do you think, PB?
Yeah. So, first of all, hey, I gotta introduce
your special guest. Yes, I was going to get to that when we got to baseball because he's the baseball guy. Go ahead.
He is the baseball guy, but hey, he's going to make a few comments on the Celtics too. So this is Stevie two-seamer coming in hot. He's coming in hot.
I like it, Stevie two-seamer.
He's got our baseball expert, so he'll be talking some of the MLB stuff later. But he's gonna weigh in too on the Celtics here as well. So, but what I think is, the team is just turning the ball over. We turned the ball over way too much, right? The turnovers killed them. And every time Jason Tatum had the ball in his hands, as a Celtics fan, I was nervous because I didn't think he'd be able to get it done. I thought he was going to just haphazardly try to drive to the hoop, make an errant pass or something like that. And that just caught up to them after a while. And on the other flip side of it, every single time Curry got the ball in his hands, I felt nervous too for the, if I was a Golden State fan, I would have felt comfortable because he couldn't miss. And, I know he didn't get any threes in the game, Game 5, but that didn't matter. They didn't need him to win that game, which was even more of a reason why, watch out, if Curry gets hot and scores his regular points, there's no way this team's going to be able to beat him. So you called it, Z. You said if they don't win that Game 4 to go up 3-1, that they were going to lose the series. And sure enough, they never won a game again. Think about it. They were 7-0 coming off of a loss, and they lost 3 straight to end that series. So that was just the demise of the team there. Stevie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a crushing loss. I think, first of all, the turnovers killed the Celtics, especially the play of Jason Tatum. I think he just failed to match the intensity of Draymond Green. So, I mean, I think he was the first player in postseason history to turn the ball over 100 times in the playoffs, which was kind of just,
wow.
Yeah, that was the theme of the series there. So definitely disappointing. I mean, I'm sure we'll be back with the young nucleus, but it would have been nice to see Brown and Tatum kind of get a nice start to their legacy by getting one at an early age.
Yeah, that's a good point because they are still young. So what do you think about the future of this team? Because,
well, I'll say this. So Oklahoma City Thunder thought they had a young team when they had Kevin Durant, James Harden, Big Perk was on the bench for that team. They were only in the early 20s. They thought they were going to go to more finals. They only went once with that team. They never made it back. That team got blown up. So I would say this, I'm a little concerned. Marcus Smart, I love him. He hustles, but when he decides to whine, he can't help the team. He got to go. He's not a point guard. At the end of the day, you need a point. You know who would have helped this team? Rajon Rondo, because he would not have put up with the BS of Brown or Tatum dribbling the ball all the time. He would have said, give me the ball after a basket. I can see on a missed shot, they taking the ball at the court. On a basket, it's got to go to the point guy. He's got to set it up. Didn't happen. So Marcus Smart never made that happen. I don't think he comes back. At least I don't want him to come back because they can't win with him on the team.
yeah.
Not that he's a bad dude. I like Marcus a lot, but you can't have him and the other two prima donnas because it just doesn't mix.
Right. Yeah. So, but how many games? So they played 4, 7, 7, 6, right? So what is that? 24 games they played in the playoffs this year, right? I'm just thinking back to what Stevie said about the 100 turnovers by a player. Imagine that in 24 games, one player has 100 turnovers. So he was averaging himself over 4 turnovers a game.
And he's a first team All NBA player too. So to see that out of him is
There you go.
such a letdown.
He's 6'10". He should not be handling the ball as much as he does. That's the bottom line. There it is. There's the turnovers, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the challenge right there. They got to fix that problem. And Udoka, he owns that. Brad Stevens wasn't fixing it. That's why he went upstairs. Udoka's going to fix it, or else you're going to see the same problem. And by the way, Golden State, we talked about this PB in a previous show. Their legacy was at stake. They had won 3 championships. They had lost 2. 3-3 don't make a dynasty in my mind. I still don't think they're a dynasty at 4-2 over 8 years. Sorry, to me that's not a dynasty. But think about this for a minute. Curry's the oldest at 34. Draymond maybe is 35. Sorry about that. Clay's 34 as well. But they got James Wiseman. They got Poole. They got Andrew Wiggins, who finally lived up his billing as a #1 draft pick when he was picked 5 years ago as a #1. That team, Wiseman, by the way, didn't play the whole year. He was a #3 pick, I think, 2 years ago. They're going to be on a run again, maybe. They have everything in their hands at this point in time. They have no salary cap issues. That team, if they stay healthy. The problem with the last 2 years was they were unhealthy, right? 2 years ago, they lost both Clay and they lost Durant before he left town on injuries when they could have won 3 in a row. So they could go on a real roll right now. The Celtics, hate to say it, this might be a one and done. We may not see them back with this rotation in the finals.
It's possible. It's possible. I disagree with you. I think winning 4 championships in 8 years and going to 6 in 8 years is a dynasty. Sorry. I think it is.
I mean, it's not bad. It's not the Celtics of the 60s or the Lakers of the 80s or Jordan in the 90s, right? Winning 6 and 7 years. But, I mean, it's not bad.
When there were 9 teams in the league, right?
All right. Let's move on to the other professional sport finals, the Stanley Cup, where you have a lot of expertise in this conversation, PB. By the way, your Florida team, not the Florida Panthers, I like to remind you over and over and over, but the Tampa Bay Lightning are in the finals. And by the way, your pick, the Avalanche, the Lightning have them right where they want. They're down 0-1.
Right.
They got them feeling cocky. The Lightning are thinking, okay, we got them what we want. What do you think?
Yeah, and they took them to overtime, so they got them a little tired as well, right? I mean, even though they won quickly in overtime, but still long night for both teams. Yeah, I mean, let's go back to the first round of the playoffs. Game 1 on the road. Tampa Bay goes up to Toronto, loses 5-0. They came right back the very next night and beat them in Toronto. And by the way, they won Game 7 also in Toronto on the road. They have no problem winning on the road. Then what happens in the next round? They sweep the Panthers. That was easy series for them. Next round, conference championship. What happens in Game 1? They lose to the Rangers. Oh, by the way, they lose 2 in a row to the Rangers on the road. Down 2-0, had to come back and win 2 at home. So this team is used to being down. This is the 3rd out of the 4th series that they've been down 1-0 after the first game. Even if they lost and went down 2-0, I still believe this team could come back and win. But it would be nicer if they could at least split in Colorado and come back to Tampa with the home ice now on their side.
All right, hockey guy, I can ask you a question. Valesky let up a couple of easy goals in that game. He's been a little shaky, even against the Rangers. I know he held on to win it, but are you a little bit? Avalanche are not the Rangers with the puck in this on their sticks, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a huge concern. And he let up his first 5-hole goal in the entire playoffs in the first game against Colorado. So, and then there was one that went just underneath his glove that he could have had. It wasn't even a deflected shot. So when they deflected, I give him a little bit of benefit out to the goalie, but he was just letting in some straight shots. I mean, Vasilevsky, though, I wouldn't, when it comes down to those elimination games, or when it comes down to their opportunity to clinch the series, he's money. He still stands on his head. He's still money. So I'll give him a pass in a game or two because they can turn it up when they need to.
But you did pick the Avs to win the whole thing. Are you sticking with that pick?
I know. I always go. I try to stick with my heart. and pick the team I want to root for, which obviously is I'd love to see the three-peat. It hasn't been done, since the 80s or 90s, right? But if I was a betting man, especially now that the Avalanche are up 1-0, I have to stick with my guns. That's who I picked to win it from the beginning of this whole year. You go watch the PB&Z preview before the season started. I had the Avs going all the way, so I'm sticking with my guns. I'm going to say the Avs with my head, but rooting for the Lightning though.
All right. I'll revisit my pick after game 3.
Right.
All right. Let's talk a little MLB. We haven't talked about it since we made our preseason picks at the beginning of the year. We're about 63 games into the regular season at this point in time. The Yankees are absolutely smoking. I don't think you picked them to make the playoffs. I think I had them as a wild card. I think you had them not even making it. They're on an unbelievable roll. So Stevie Two-Seamer, we'll ask you, can the Yankees sustain this momentum?
I think they can, Z, and I'm going to tell you why. I think it's because of their staff. I think they have a deep staff this year that can go along well with their hitting, and they have a really good bullpen. So I think with that in mind, I think in the postseason, their staff can carry them. Whereas in years past, I think that their staff hasn't been as strong. So, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into surprising players in a little bit, but Nestor Cortez has been one of the best stories so far in MLB with how well he's pitched. So
let me ask you a question, because interesting is Aaron Judge made a bet on himself. He did not get a new contract. He's in his final year, right? He decided to hold off in negotiations. Can he stay healthy? Because right now he's on a record pace. I mean, he has 25, 26 home runs. He's the only third Yankee to do it in 60 games. The only other two guys are some clowns named Ruth and Derek. I mean, can he stay on this pace?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, he's shown a history in his career to not stay healthy. But I mean, if I think him staying healthy is definitely the key to that team winning. I think he's the motor. And yeah, like you said, in a contract year, he was a little ticked off in the beginning of the season for not getting a contract by the team. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that he can. I mean, if they DH him, right, he's not out there running around the field. That increases his chance of being able to stay healthy. If he doesn't make any stupid slides into bases or pull a hammy from trying to, round a base too fast or something like that, and just stays as a hitter, I think they can, he can manage his gameplay, if you will, to the point where he can stay healthy. So I'm going to give him the credit right now that he can have that continue the pace and maybe put up some serious numbers this year.
But by the way, you can't DH him all season when you have to do the same with Stan. You can't. One of them has to DH, one has to play the outfield at the end of the day. Both those guys are injury prone. Big boys, 6'7", 250, 260, both of them, right? Stanton, by the way, hasn't really hit yet this year. So you could almost live with Judge going in a slump if Stanton picks it up, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's where it amounts to. I mean, those two, they have to balance those two players in a way that keeps them both healthy. And so far they've done it. Really, I mean, Stanton's gone out for a little bit, but for the
30
most part,
games over 500 after 60. That's un-effing believable.
Right. Well, and then like you talked about, I mean, we know Garrett Cole is the ace of that staff, but there's guys like Nestor Cortez, James Talon is having a really, really good year so far.
Montgomery as well.
Montgomery's pitching well. I mean, that staff, I mean, you go, who's their fifth starter? But you can go 5 deep on that team and put up.
So let me ask you a question. Sticking in the AL for a minute before we go to the NL. Is there a team in the AL that you're surprised about at the moment, besides the Yankees? I'm a little surprised they're this far ahead. But is there anybody else that you think will sustain and make a run to the end?
Well, we were talking earlier about the Cleveland Guardians. Right now, they actually hold the final wild card spot by a half a game over the Red Sox.
Barely. The Sox have won yesterday. There'd be 4 teams from the AL East in the playoffs right now, right?
Yeah, right. And it's just a half a game. So I think there's like 6 games in hand or something that the Guardians have. So we'll see. But I think that Ramirez is having is it Ramirez?
Yep.
Yeah, he's having a hell of a year so far, right? So I don't know. That's my only team I think if you go back to our pregame show, all the teams that we picked to be in the playoffs are pretty much the teams that are there right now. So we've been spot on with our picks. I know we had the Twins, you had the Twins. I think the biggest disappointment in the American League is probably the White Sox at this point.
Right. Yeah, and the White Sox have been kind of ravaged with injuries, so I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of got a little hot here in the middle of the season. But also the Blue Jays are a team to watch for. They're super talented. They have a really good young lineup. Kind of reminds me of the Blue Jays in like 2015, 2016 with Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion, those guys. So let's see if their staff can hold up in the postseason, but they're definitely a team to watch for.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, their staff is surprising. I mean, Alec Manoah, is that how you say his name, right? He's having a pretty good year so far. But that's all going to be the thing. You put that staff up against the Yankee staff,
Right.
you know, I mean, that's where it's going to come down to. We know once the playoffs roll, it comes down to pitching.
Mhm.
I don't know if Toronto can sustain that pitching.
Well, let me ask you a question. At the end of the day, if all their studs are hitting the ball and their pitchers are at least doing okay, don't you think they're a better team than the Yankees at the end of the day?
I don't think so. I think the Yankees, as a Red Sox fan, I hate to say it, but I think the Yankees are easily the best team in MLB, top to bottom, from starting pitching to relieving and with their lineup. But we'll see. I mean, in the postseason, it comes down to arms and who you have available. So I think that good pitching will beat good hitting most times.
Yeah, and the Dodgers too. I mean, I know it's the National League when we get to the second, but the Dodgers, I think, top to bottom too. You can put them right up against the Yankees.
Yes. Hey, let me ask you a question before we talk about the NL. Stevie Two-Seamer. Should Mr. La Russa not have walked that guy on a 1-2 count?
I mean, it's tough to say. I definitely think giving up a walk with a 1-2 count is obviously not ideal. I would have went for the strikeout. So he's made a couple of questionable coaching decisions here.
I mean, the guy's 77 years old. Is age catching up with him possibly?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I see a lot of young managers now in the game, so it's definitely kind of rare to see an older skipper like that. So
Yeah. I know. It was very questionable. All right, let's switch over to the NL. The Dodgers are still holding on. They're doing pretty strong. All of a sudden, the Mets are being challenged because Atlanta. I mean, has Atlanta lost in June yet? I don't think they have, right?
Yeah, they're on fire right now.
And Philadelphia, meanwhile, they fired Girardi. They won 11 or 12 in a row. Then they lost one. They won one, right? They're still like the last 10 games. They're 8-2. They're all of a sudden making a run for, right?
Yeah. I had them. They were one of my wild card teams this year for the National League. So I was expecting big things out of Philly. And I was disappointed with that start, but I think firing the manager was the right thing to do because it's turned the team around.
All right. As we get close to wrapping up, I'll ask Stevie Two-Seamer this. Who's your biggest surprise right now in the ML player wise?
In the NL, I'm gonna go a little off the beaten path here. I'm gonna say Adam Wainwright because he's 40 years old and he has a 2.84 ERA and he's pitching like he's 26 years old again. So I think that's actually a team to watch for. I mean, I know they're in first place right now, but it seems like they always fly under the radar every year. They have a nice blend of like older guys with Pujols, Yadi Molina, and then Wainwright. And then they also have a good blend of young talent with a couple of their guys like Nolan Gorman and Brendan Donovan in their lineup. So I think they're definitely a team to watch for going into the postseason.
And by the way, Goldschmidt, if I'm not mistaken, is leading the NL batting, right? As last I saw.
Yeah, he's actually a Triple Crown candidate. He could, because he doesn't have to deal with Judge. He's in the National League, so he could very easily win, the home run title as well and get the RBI. I think he already leads in RBIs, and like you said, he's right up there in average too. So he could definitely be a Triple Crown fan. We saw the Cardinals play the Marlins in Miami earlier this year. So we got to see the Cardinals, and we're going tomorrow night to the Red Sox. We're playing the Cardinals. So we'll get to see. I think Wainwright might be pitching.
He's pitching tonight.
Oh, he's pitching tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I got one last thing for you guys. Red Sox, obviously they're a little bit stronger lately, but they have three of the best hitters in all of baseball. Devers, Martinez, and Bogarts are like in the top 10 in every category. Would you expect this team to be better than what they are having those three hitters?
It comes down. I think it comes down to their pitching staff. I've never really doubted the Red Sox ability to score runs in their offense, especially playing at Fenway Park and the way they manufacture doubles hitters. I think they don't have any problem scoring. And you can even go deeper. I mean, Trevor Story started off slow. He went on a tear for a while. I mean, that guy had 1 week where I think he hit,
Okay.
He had like 7 home runs and 20 RBIs in a span of like 10 games or something like that. So he did most of his damage in a short span of time. but he's got potential to be that fourth guy who could be right up there with the three that you just mentioned. And then you got guys filling in like a Verdugo who can hit the ball. I don't know. I just think this team offensively has got what it takes. It's the bullpen and it's the entire pitching staff. I think from top to bottom is mediocre at best, and that's the problem. I mean, who's your number one guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think pitching is definitely the biggest problem, but it'll be interesting to see how the rotation gets switched up when Sale and James Paxton coming back into the rotation. I mean, ideally, you'd like to see someone like Michael Wacha get maybe pushed to the pen.
Good points. All right.
So I mean, we'll see how the rotation looks heading into the end of the year here, because I think a couple guys might get pushed. I mean, Whitlock's another guy. If he gets pushed to the bullpen, that could help us out. So I think a lot of it depends on Sale and Paxton, how they come back.
Fair point. All right. I'm with you on that. All right. Well, Stevie Two Seaman, thank you very much for joining us on the PB&Z Sports Chaos Show. We're wrapping up. I'm getting the warning here. We're going to zoom out in a second. So, gentlemen, thank you. Happy Father's Day, PB.
Thanks for having me,
Talk to you
guys.
soon. Thank you, Stevie. Appreciate it. Thanks for your insight, guys.
All right.